Jesus saw the crowds, he was moved with compassion for them, because they were harassed and helpless, like sheep without a shepherd. Then he said to his disciples, "The harvest is plentiful, but the workers are few. Ask the Lord of the harvest, therefore, to send out workers into his harvest." These words rang into Bishop Chichester's ears, the then bishop in charge of the Vicariate of Salisbury, as he realized that the task to evangelize was becoming too big for the Jesuits. He invited the Society of Bethlehem Missionaries, SMBs, if they were interested and capable. So in October 1938, the first SMBs arrived in southern Rhodesia and were assigned to areas in and around Fort Victoria, which became the Diocese of Gwelo. By 1965, there were over 100 SMB priests and over 50 SMB brothers.
Why we actually came to Rhodesia, Zimbabwe. We had already missionaries in China, in Manchuria, but there was no possibility for brothers. And we had already some brothers like Michael Swisik, who was one of the first ones who came to Rhodesia, Zimbabwe. And that was the case, that we have a country where brothers are also able to do missionary work. So it was also not only building a Christian community with our spirituality of Bethlehem missionaries to spread the word of God, the eternal word made flesh, coming reality among the people through what we did and said. Preaching, building, the spiritual aspect, and the other aspect also helping the people. Gokomere had a garage, not just for us. There were mechanics, there were electricians, and there was Brother John Burkhardt, and a multi-gifted man for electricity, for cars, and he was the one who was flying as the pilot going out to Silveira, to those places, even during the war, bringing the doctors to the hospitals when there was no doctor anymore, even all the way to Wangi. Yes.
We have big missions like Gokomere, St. Patrick's Gokomere Mission, Silveira Mission, Mukaro Mission, St. Anton's Mission, Berejena Mission. The SMBs established missions all over parts of the current diocese and did the same with the various outstations under these missions.
My first station was Silveira, Mutsami, and all those centers. I was there for 4 years. After that, I moved to Berejena for 4 years, and then from Berejena to Holy Cross for 3 years, and then 13 years in Mutero. Then another 2 years Silveira. Then I was 4 years in Bulawayo, taking part in a charismatic movement. I did the essential job also about what I was sent for and what the mission is here. Di mukushi ve shokoramari, ne shokoramari no tipo lugare, mufaro, rudo, tipo positive self-image, and shokwirori rakandi bakavo ini bachangu, and so takangano okupa okunavambe, santa kakamuchira.
They were invited to this country by Archbishop Chichester soon after the Second World War, and they established many missions from those which the Jesuits had already established. And these are people who had the experience of doing national service in their country, in Switzerland. They could easily find their way among the people, even walking on foot, and the experience of the military service which they had in Switzerland.
I came to Zimbabwe 3 days before UDI. I was here for over 55 years, from 1965 till now, stationed at the different missions. The aim was to get new members to the family of God and to bring them together as brothers and sisters, to live together in a community as brothers and sisters, that we trust each other and build a new family, a new community in the parish.
They have done a great work in the diocese, both Gweru and the Masvingo diocese. It was one diocese then, but you can see from the institutions that we have inherited that they build solid buildings, thick walls with mud bricks, but still they are still standing. The roofs are neat and strong, and they really did a good job.
Inasmuch as the SMBs were undertaking the developmental work and projects, it did not negatively affect the main mission of evangelization. Actually, these made evangelization much easier as they went on in an overdrive, converting thousands of local people to Christianity.
And the thing that I found amazing is that they were so selfless. They didn't work for their own interest. They worked for the interest of the place and the people with whom they were working there and then. Although they knew they would be transferred, this didn't matter. They put all their resources into the place where they were stationed.
Really, they tried to make these missions self-sustained, self-reliant. They knew a time will come when the church will no longer have missionaries who will continue pumping money and giving. So they wanted the church to be self-reliant, and they established projects which were supposed to sustain the parish or even the mission. For example, they had even dead board, the farms, and even piggery and so forth.
We like to feel at home at the mission. Therefore, we try to produce everything what they need to feel at home. That we don't have to go to town to look for this and that thing. Therefore, we have a garden, we have dairy cows, we have some animals to slaughter. Therefore, we built a home at the mission that we get everything what we had at home. And this was the thing for self-reliance. And we met the people, we tried to help them too, that they become self-reliant. We said you have to produce yourself whatever you need, that you don't have to rely on other people to help you. Whatever you can do yourself, you do it yourself, and we try to help you.
Zvandakanyanya kuona pakubata kwavana ava, vanga vakasimba chaizvo vana ava mubasa ravo, zvikurukuru mukushanyira vatendi mumisha. Vanhu vanga vasina kana usimbe pakushandira vanhu, uye rudo rwavo futi navanhu. Kana wavagara vangokugamuchira kuti mutenderi iyeye munhu iyeye havaregedzani naye, zvinongoenda mberi zvakadaro.
Ende katika ziya yemafatayidi echirungu yanga yakatikoshera zvikuru. Vanga vasina zvokuti ngatimanyire kuti tipapatise munhu unge tamutenderi. Taita 3 years, ndakatanga katikazi 1970, 71, 72 ndienda zopapatiswa ini. Tichitondopedza vhiki tichidzidza katikazi.
Chandakadzidza kuna nafadha vaiva vanhu vanga vakazvininipisa vaiva vanhu vaiva norunamato. Chandoziva ndechekuti ndichiri mudiki saizvozvo ndaiona Father James dzimwe vachitendera neyadhini. Ndaigara pano nababa vari mufundisi mukatikisiti pano, saka ndaivaona vachifamba dzimwe nguva kumanheru ndobvunza kuti Father vari kutenderera vari kuita zvonzi havari kuita rosary. Saka zvakandiinspire uye ndakaona basa guru ravakaita rokuvaka machechi nokubatsira vaitambura. Zvakandiinspirewo kusvika ini pari zvino ndakwanisawo kuwana vamwe vanhu vandakazombochengetavo nemaoko angu ndichibatsira pamba pangu.
Baba John Gaisa vakandipa umhare ukuru hwechitendero. Tanga tisingafambi nemota, taifamba namabhasikoro, tichipinda muimba imwe neimwe. Panguva yaBaba John Gaisa hakuna mutendero kuno kumatibi aimboshaika asina kupa masakramende, zvikuru sakramende izvo chaogweri, nokuti munhu waizvipira. Vakaona kuti mutendero uri pakati, vaidoti vachigumba ndei, tainda ikoko namabhasikoro edu. Dzimwe nambo taidondovata kana kuri kure sekuna naBhukwa maini, tainda ikoko toenda namabhasikoro, tosikona kuzoka tovata ikoko. Cheruwa bridge iri rakavakwa nabrother Henry Cheruwa, vainzi brother Henry Cheruwa, ndivo vakavaka muna 1973. Ndiwo gore randakachinjiwawo ndibva kwaBerejena. Cheruwa bridge chitanga kuvakwa, vaiva namatrainees ava vaitraina kuvaka mabuilders. Vakavaka paCheruwa bridge napano paMuledesi kamukatara muchingobva pano pamission ukangobuda apo munoona pane bridge rakaitwa nayo brother Cheruwa.
Vakanzwisisa rudzidziso rwechita chavo cheSMB zvinofanana nekunzwisisa kwakaita Pauro kuti akatumwa kumarudzi akasiyana-siyana ekunze. Havana kutungamirirwa nepfungwa dzavo, asi vakatungamirirwa nechitendero chavo sechaPauro chakavagonesa kuti vabatane nekudyidzana nekushanda nesu.
Basa ratakaitirwa nama-SMB haribviri kutsanangura ukaripedza. Isi tinototenda chipo ichochi chatakawirwa naMwari chokuti vakauya uno vechiuya nefaith. Havana kuuya neindustry, havana kuuya neimwe project, asi vakauya neproject yefaith. Saka izvozvo zvakandipa kutenda kuti shuwa vanhu ava vakatibatsira. Tinovatenda mune zvavakaita mudhayisisi redu rose, nyange zvaro richanzi Gweru, tinozvitenda zvikuru.
The SMB priests, the Swiss missionaries, their strength was living with the people and for the people. They were not choosing what to eat, where to sleep. They were just doing what the local people were doing. Father John Gruber started this place around 1948, I think. He was a sculptor. He wanted the church to speak to people through art, local art. So he built this church. It's a magnificent church. Tourists come here all over from Germany to see this church. And he's buried here. He was living with the people.
SMB fathers had a great impact on me as an individual, because without them, I don't think I would have become a priest. You know, they would struggle with the language, but their zeal, their commitment, and their dedicatedness challenged me. You know, the way they addressed us and them being Varungu and the humility that they had to come down as far as Mtuzukwe mission. It's one of the remotest missions in the diocese, rather, Mtuzukwe mission, where I come from. But they came there and they evangelized with the zeal. So I got inspired by their commitment and their dedication. That's why also I got the inspiration that I want to become a priest when I grow up. And not only a priest, but I said to myself, I want to become a priest and to preach to my people, because I saw my people listening to a priest who struggled with our vernacular language.
We have different guilds and associations for the lay faithful, and they were so helpful in the formation of associations. That's what actually they brought to our country and to our dioceses in their zeal to evangelize.
And with Father Greber,
I was working with the youth, but among the youth there were young women who had children, but they were too young to join the women. So together with other Greba, we formed a group of single mothers. Nzangaya Monica, those who are wearing white blouse and the purple skirt. And it is really flourishing.
For my spiritual life, I can say I had a very good experience with the Bethlehem priests, especially for retreats. They helped me to be who I am, in the sense that also I try in my own little ways to imitate what I have seen from them, a simple lifestyle, to take care of what belongs to the community, and also to try to pass on to those who are coming after us, especially with this job that we have to help our girls in the formation.
The Bethlehem missionaries, they gave me the impression of being very dedicated people. Not only dedicated, but also religious people that were coming here to bring the good news, to bring Christ to the people. Not only to build buildings, but to build people in their religion and in their faith of Jesus.
These people developed, firstly, they wanted to look at people and make them a bit better than they were living. So they helped in any way, economically, socially.
Ndakadzidza kuzviriritira. Abantu kungoenda kuchitendero uchiuya chiti ndipewo sadza, ndipewo sipewo, iyo igarden ichakuraramisha, ndimo muchararamira.
And as for the mission, they did a lot. They grew vegetables, grew bananas and fruit trees. And we learned as a whole, people looking at who were going to the church as Roman Catholics, all who were not even Roman Catholics, we learned a lot that if one should be living, one has to work.
Exactly, ndo kunobva mapipe ari kudira mutangishi. Saka takabva tacherawo ipapo. Ndokutowaka dhamu redu ipapo. Izvo stone work takazoitawo tega. Nokutenga semende taatozvibetserawo nezvimabasa zvataivaka. But iyo shungu yavo chaiyo chaiyo yaiyo kuti tiwane zvokuita negarden.
As you can see from here, this is the result of what I learned from the missionaries. We have here some grapes. They were growing a lot of grapes, so I copied from them and I have the grapes here. I would say this is what I learned and this is what I got from the SMBs as a thing that would assist me as a human being living on this earth.
SMBs vakanzisa kugara navanhu. Ndiri mwana wechidikisa izvozvo, kubata vanhu zvakanaka muchitendero. Kudzidzisa vanhu kuti vanhu vauye kusangano rako, unovadzidzisa nenzira dzipi. Craft yakaitwa pano SMB. Sister ataiva Sister Henrietta. Vachitanga craft zasuku. Saka tina vamwe vana vakatodzidzisa craft kuita courses avo.
I would say they kept the missions. Actually, the buildings, most of them were new then, but in their everyday work, a mission would look like a mission, whereby trees would be green, no brown grass everywhere, it was always green.
In basa ravakazondiitira vana baba vana sita vanga vari pano nguva idzodzo vakabva vandiendesa kuempandeni kuti ndiende kunodzidza zvakanyanya pamusana pokusona nokubika nokuita garden kuempandeni mission. Saka ndinda ndiri teacher kuhomecraft, tivadzidzisa kubika, kuvadzidzisa kuruka, kuvadzidzisa garden, nokuvadzidzisa kana kugadzira mibhedha, nokuti patime idzodzo varungu vanga vachizotora vasikana vebasa pano. Saka vanga vachida munhu anogona zvose. Saka vana baba nana sister vatati navo panguva idzodzo vanga vachida kuti mabasa amaoko ave anozikamwa. Ndakagara nana fata ndiri mwana mudiki, ndakatowa ndiita standard 1 yakare akandidzidzisa kusvika ndaenda kutraining, kusvika ndapedza ndichingova mumavoko avo. Vana fata vazhinji vaigara paGokomeri, saka taingoshanda navo vose. Tisi taiona kuti tagadzira mibhedha yana baba, tatsvaira dzimba dzana baba, taita washeni yana baba, tichiaina.
Father Stoker also was doing a lot in terms of empowering the local people, building their, helping them to build even dams for water projects. And in that direction, in that way, they made a very big impact to the people.
Ini ndakatanga kushanda na Father Stoker mugore 1990. Takatangira pana apa kuno kuchinyuni. Tabva ipapo 1990 takazoenda kupikita takanovaka mamadhamu. Kufandada takanovaka. Father Stoker vaiti toda kubetsera vanhu vagere munharaunda kuti vawanewana upenyu hwakanaka, nokuti vaitaura kuti mumadhamu vabereki vachakwanisa kuva vanowana mvura, vachiti mvura upenyu, mvura inokosha. Saka vanhu vaizokwanisa kuita mairrigation, kuita zvimagardens, mombe dzavo dziwana mvura yekunwa, zvese nehuku dzavo dzichibetserekana. Uyezve kuti vanhu vaizama kuti vanhu vawane employment, kuti vana kapanenge vari vadiki vanokwanisa kurima madomasi kana kuita zvimwe zvinhu vachishandisa mvura inobva mumadhamu imomo.
Vana baba kutanga kwavo vachitanga kuuya vakapinza chitendero metiri zvakanyanya, nokuti zvokuti vanhu vakazhinji vakada kuti vauye kuRoman Catholic kuzonamata, nokuda kworudo rwavanga vanarwo nechitendero chavanga vanacho, uye rubatsiro rwavaipa kunyanya kuvanhu vatema. Vanhu vachiona izvozvo zvakapinda mavari kuti dataitawo maCatholics.
When it comes to developing the missions or the structures at the missions, I can say the SMBs, they've done quite a lot for this diocese. I can say they took it from the scrap to much of what it is today. Coming to this area, St. Monica Chikuku, there was Father Weda who worked here. And he's the one who did put much of the structures that we are seeing around here. Though some of the structures were left to collapse because of not being maintained properly. But SMBs in general, they were builders, I can say. Most of them, they left structures wherever they went.
Father Pius Batik did quite a lot of work in the community. Actually, he was an overloaded priest. He assisted in the opening of a youth training center at St. Monica Chikuku Mission. We have youths being trained in carpentry, building, and welding, and garment construction. These are some of the subjects they are taking right now.
Coming to this place, I've seen that they did quite a lot in terms of infrastructure at the mission. Firstly, I think the geographical setup, I think those who started this mission they had a great vision. We don't use electricity to pump water to the mission, we just use the gradient. So I show that they really planned quite well to have this mission moving forward.
For bringing the good news to this country, and it was well received, and so many people came to convert and came to the church, and also development work was done. So through the mission, much was done for the benefit of this country and the people. He wanted to promote the local church. He wanted to promote the local clergy, and he wanted to promote the Bishop Chiginia was then founding the St. Paul's Brothers. But they had another objective. They called themselves St. Paul's Brothers, and our brothers were more another type of brothers, development work. So that was the difference.
Realizing that the task of evangelization would not be complete without the involvement of women, the SMBs, through Bishop Alois Henny, founded a congregation of sisters, the Sisters of the Infant Jesus, SJI.
We were founded by the SMBs, Bishop Henny in particular. So for him, when he started really this congregation, he was looking at him having been given a diocese to run. So he looked at it and said, how am I going to really evangelize this vast area? But I need the locals to be able to evangelize to their own people. So that's when the congregation started recruiting these girls. In fact, when he came to Silvira, there were already about 4 girls whom Father Good had recruited who were there, but they didn't belong to any congregation really, but they just wanted to be sisters. So when he came to Silvira, then said, what is happening with these girls? That's when he thought of, they can make a congregation of their own. That's when he started the processes.
And we learned a lot from the SMBs because they taught us to be self-reliant, to produce what we eat in our gardens, looking after animals like cattle, piggery projects, all these things, making our bread, making our sausages, making our butter from our own milk. So it was a great help, and we cannot really forget them for what they did for us.
And when I look at all the SMBs, they really nurtured us as a congregation. They all worked together. I don't know how the bishop instructed them, that all SMBs, they looked at us as their children. So if we look at our spiritual formation, the bishop made sure the SMBs were coming in to give us that spiritual input.
Education and evangelization had to be supported through books and reading. The SMBs established Mambo Press so that the local people would have books to read both in schools and in parishes.
Mambo Press was for this very purpose founded, that from the very beginning there were people asked to write in the language of the people.
Mambo Press, through its publications, although they were always subtle, but through its publications, particularly the newspaper Moto, they were highlighting the plight of the Africans. And they were also reporting on the activities of the various liberation movements. They were also conscientizing the black population, not in an open way that politicians did, went on the political platform and so on, but through their journalism, they were able to highlight the plight of the Africans then, and also influencing particularly the overseas audience on the condition of the Africans in this country.
They tried to destroy, but they were not able to destroy the spirit, and it continued. It got up again, helping the people also in this way to spread the word of God.
The coming in of Vatican II was a blessing to the church, as composition of local hymns for liturgy were introduced with the SMB initiative.
Father Lenhe in Gweru Diocese, amongst the SMBs, was the first one to have Shona hymns in this country.
I was at home after studies. As priest, I did further studies in music and taught music in our college at home for 5 years. And then the call came that I would come to South Africa to try to build up the local African church music.
The music that we have today in the church, they took the rhythm of singing and the drumming actually from the Mande type of music that was used in the African traditional religion, and they put it in the church. It was quite unique, yes. Some would say drumming is evil because it is coming from the African traditional practices. But for them, they saw the good in it. Even the rhythm of the music itself, like that Mr. Ponde introduced in the church, you'd see that it is also the same rhythm that was found in the African traditional practices that were there. For an example, Wana wejo usa utevere, uka utevera unondosare. That kinti 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 kinti. That's the same one we found now, and we were saying Fata Murungu, Fata Murungu. And somebody would think it's something that came from maybe somewhere else, but it is something that was within already, and they capitalized on that, utilized it, because it was easy for the people to accept.
Shona hymns started in Gweru Diocese. Obviously, they were picked up by Chishawasha, and then they were put together, and the Nzimbosande materialized. What also he added was the Shona drum, the drumming in church, which generally was opposed by many, I could say probably many missionaries, other missionaries. But Bishop Henny supported it because his argument was, and it's in the priest council meeting of Gweru Diocese, he had seen it in Uganda when he visited Uganda. And their singing was local, and they were also using drums. And this is why he supported it and said it's okay. Luckily enough, Vatican II was not that rigid. It opened up windows for people to adapt. So that's how the Shona drum came, due to Father Lenhe.
At the peak of the Liberation War, the SMB missionaries were not spared either. Some priests were killed, others injured, and others deported from the country. They supported the fight for the freedom of the local people.
It was the beginning from 1970 to 75 when the Liberation War started in Zimbabwe. We had still the first comrades coming in to the area, coming from the east, from the border area from Mozambique. And the mother, Father Dabaninge Sitole, was stationed at Matiwore Parish, at the south of the parish. And therefore we had contact already, early contact with the liberation and with the comrades who came for the liberation theology.
Some of them, during the War of Liberation, actually died in this country. Father George Wigel, he died in Bondolfi, he was murdered during the war, as well as Father Rubio in Bangala.
Father George was killed during the war, and the day when he was killed, there was a light that was seen. And this light was seen everywhere, in all the outer-stations he was working. It was a big light coming from the ground, going up, lighter than a fluorescence. He really gave up his life to the people. So it was a sort of saying goodbye to his people. And Father Rubio was also killed here in Bangala, where I am. He was killed, taken from home, and was killed on the way by the comrades.
After the massacre of 9 women by burning near Silvira Mission, Father Kirschman helped in the burying of the dead bodies, which was a great risk for the priests.
Saka vana mai vakazvipinda imumba turaurwa nomuvengi. Saka vana mai vachipinda mumba dhoo rakakiwa. Ndobva vaisa bhombu pamusoro. Vana mai vanga vari 9. Saka vadaro saizvozvo vana mai vatsva Father Kirschman ndo vakazouya vakuita basa rokutakura zvidhuna zvose. Hakuna wanga vachagona kuita anything. Vakava kungoudzwa nevarume vavo kuti uyu ndiye wangu. Saka Kirschman vaisumudza asi vachiisa mumapepa-bag kuenda kunoviga pose pose painge pakadi pachererwa munhu.
No country or nation can survive without education. As one of their major roles in promoting the local people, the SMBs invested heavily in education by establishing more than 100 schools.
Mamisheni ese tinoona muno mudiocese akavakwa nama-SMB. Nezvikoro zvakawanda zvatinoona zvinopinda zvakavakwa nama-SMB vachibatsirana nesu. Nama-projects amwe aitwa tainyanya kubatsirwa nama-SMB. Nevamwe maticha vakapinza zvikoro vakatopinzwawo nama-SMB vachibhadharirwa fee dzavo. Saka takaona kuti basa ravakaita range rakawanda, range rakakura, vachibatsira kuti tiwane nechitendero chaicho.
The approach of the Swiss Bethlehem Fathers was so unique and it was so impressive. They focused on education and they established strong educational institutions. And we are proud of so many institutions, educational institutions that were founded by the Swiss Bethlehem Fathers.
Bishop Henny, in his approach, was also far ahead of his time. He already thought of the girl child amidst the cultural milieu that the girl child was not very important. She was there to cook, to work, and to be married. He started Mukaro Secondary School precisely and for the local girls. And Mukaro has turned out lots of girls, not just from Gweru and Masvingo, but nationally. And he was really ahead of time that he started Mukaro High School, which enabled many brilliant girls to become nurses, doctors, engineers, name it. And he really was inspired. That is why I say the SMBs were all-rounders. There's no area that they didn't touch that touches the human being.
The Bishop of Gweru, actually, he sent a message to our Superior General in Rome. He wanted brothers to run schools. He had heard there was a congregation of teachers. So the brothers were invited to Gogomere in 1961, and they accepted it. And when they arrived, there was no problem at all. The fathers were very happy because for them, their pastoral work was going to be easier. Because these priests were very dedicated. They were teachers. And at the same time, they were pastoral workers. So the brothers virtually replaced them in the school at Gokomere.
At Chivi Central, it's Chivi Growth Point. Father Zanetti built a secondary school, a day secondary school, a beautiful one in that area, in the district. He's the one who built that school. So they were concerned about education, yes. Education, and Father Zanetti used to pay school fees for disadvantaged students at Berijena. He used to send no check when I was the headmaster at Berijena, to send checks for these children. So what I can see, if they got no funds, because there are some, these priests came from rich families, they would send them money, like Father Greber. But they used that money to build the schools.
This place, St. Mary's, was purchased by Father Greber through the SMB fathers. After purchasing the land, he had a passion for education, to sponsor the Zimbabwean child, to keep the Zimbabwean child with education. He constructed 7 classrooms, which are here. In addition to the 7 classrooms, he also constructed a junior science laboratory that we have here, and an ablution block. Then after that, the school was just growing like that.
Currently, we are building a primary school, a new primary school, a second primary school for the Catholic Church here in the western part of Beitbridge, the new suburbs. And we have named that primary school Julius Greber, giving tribute to the late Reverend Father Julius Greber. Yeah, just appreciating what he did to the people in Beitbridge. Yeah, and currently there is a 1x2 classroom block that we have built. It's almost complete. There's also an ablution block that we have built, and a 4-roomed cottage. And we have drilled a bore. And for that first block, I must say, and I must acknowledge, we have received funding from Switzerland. Even that vocational training center, through the support that he was getting from his relations back in Switzerland. Even as we speak now, they continue to support us in the various projects that we do, and their contribution is great, is immense.
A healthy nation is a productive one. The SMBs realized the need for the local people to have access to medical facilities. In each and every mission which they founded, they made sure that a hospital or a clinic was established. They even made sure that in one mission, Silvira, there was a nurses training school, so that the nurses in the hospitals and clinics they established were trained health personnel.
I worked in Silvira Mission Hospital from 64 till 73. The hospital was belonging actually to the bishop, but we, the sisters, we the Dominican sisters, kind of staffed it. There was also a training school, which also was run by us sisters.
I'm Sister Rosemary, and I entered this country in 1967, and my first mission was St. Teresa's Hospital. St. Teresa's Hospital and St. Joseph's Mission belong together, almost on the same grounds. And our own sisters started a very small clinic near the church of St. Joseph's, and later on they built a big hospital with a training school. When I arrived there, I found there was good cooperation between the Dominicans and the Bethlehem priests and brothers I experienced, so that it was a real holistic care we were given to the patients. Every week the priest would come on a Friday afternoon and we would have Holy Mass with all the patients who could be mobilized. And after Holy Mass, the priest would go and bring communion to the patients who were confined to bed. And when a patient was very ill, we could always call on the priest to come and see them. And that I appreciated very much, because we nurses used to be very busy at that time. We had over 200 patients and only 180 beds. So it was a very good start for me to get to know. Later on, we needed to enlarge the hospital, and there was Brother Michael, we called him Mahiri, and he was the builder of an extension of the hospital, an additional ward, because the hospital had to cater for more than what it was originally built for. Then I was moved from St. Teresa's to Silveira Mission, a mission that actually belonged to the Diocese of Gweru. When I arrived there in '83, the nursing school was little huts here and there, and just a classroom which had a door like for a stable, a half a door, and it was not very well organized. So Father Kirchmann applied to Miserio, to Germany, for funds, and at the end then Brother Michael came, and I made the first, to dig in the ground in March. And just before Christmas, the very same year in '84, there was a brand new nurses' home with everything self-contained.
And Bilharzia, and also there was a lot of outreach from the hospital, you know, like Well Baby Clinic, and when there was a measles outbreak, then there was a real campaign. The doctor himself went, but there was a lot of outreach done, and also health talks given, you know, for the people to be aware of the danger of malaria and bilharzia. Yeah. So I think the hospital had quite an influence on the health of the population surrounding the mission.
Whichever mission was in the Gweru Diocese, there was not only a school and education, there was also the health sector, and that means, like in Gokomere, they had a huge school, but there was also a clinic. And in Holy Cross, which was our neighbor, the same thing. There was a big school. Then there was Mubonde Hospital, and although it's not in a rural setting, but many people would even travel from towns to be in Driefontein Hospital because it had such a good name. It was simply a great working together. We were family, and we looked after the whole person, not only their body when they were sick, but also helped them in other ways. Many mothers also benefited from learning how to make a nutrition garden, and in Silveira we did a lot of measles campaign, because children were still dying of measles due to malnutrition and not being vaccinated. So we visited all the out schools, and almost in every out school there was a Bethlehem priest at the place, and they would come over there after Sunday services. On a Monday they would come to the mission and have a get-together.
An untold story of an SMB priest who did the unthinkable during the war.
St. Aloy's mission moved from Hunyani, Churumanzu, coming to Silobela when the people were migrated or moved by the government at that time for reasons that the government knew. Father Paul Igu moved with the people from Hunyani straight into Silobela. There were people, a Shona people, coming to live among the Ndebele-speaking people. But Father Paul Igu is remembered by the community as the one who brought them here. He is the Moses, if I can say, of their time, bringing the people from Hunyani straight into Slovela. They built the church together. There was no mission here. The centers around were served by Loreto Mission. But Father Gondo built a mission together with the people who were also building their lives, restructuring their lives since they had been relocated. He built the mission with them, and they took the name that they were using there and came and used the same name, St. Aloys. The community at large remembers the SMB fathers. Not only Father Paul, but many of them.
Considering the good work which was done by the SMBs, there were some aspects which needed improvement.
And imagine they never recruited the locals to come to their society, but they were encouraging them to be priests, to be religious. So it was really missionary work they were engaging on.
What we always say about the SMBs, I may say in course the mistake that they did is that when they came, they were still young. And what they didn't do is to invite the young boys to join them and start a new community of SMBs in Zimbabwe. And that they didn't do. And when they grew old, and that we have said they are phasing out, they were going to continue to be young, as they were going to invite the local boys to join them. And the congregation would have been standing today. But today is dying because they didn't invite the local boys to join them.
At one point, Diocese of Gweru was one of the richest, but now things are going down because of maybe mismanagement, and also maybe the African clergy were not properly groomed to handle such big institutions. It happens, but the issue is that we really appreciate what they did. This diocesan clergy in the country, they started that. They were staying together in a community, and sometimes, this rubbing on each other's shoulders, and also they didn't groom them. They didn't groom them because they were using money from Switzerland. And these young ones, they just saw things happening, not knowing exactly where the money was coming from and not being introduced to produce themselves.
They were the ones who were our superiors, and we were always the juniors now and again. And we used to work together, and we used to respect them now and again, and they used to develop the diocese here and there, to the extent that quite a number of our missions had even filling stations, the farms had farming equipments, and the like, and we even had about 2 farms. That is for Gweru Diocese now, after it was divided from Mashingo. And we had Driefontein, which had a number of cows, and Loreto also. But now there are just a few in all the missions.
we have very little of our own personnel who can do all those things. Who can do the agriculture side, like piggery, like farming. We don't have priests who really studied that. Probably it's we who failed to learn during all these years since the time they arrived in this diocese.
It is unfortunate that the SMBs in Zimbabwe are no longer active and their numbers are dwindling very fast.
The SMB will vanish. We are now 5 members, 3 here and 2 in Maria Cesa, and in a few weeks' time we shall be gone, so that will be history. The local church has to carry on.
After working in Zimbabwe for almost 100 years, the church in Zimbabwe is very grateful to the SMBs for all their work, building churches, schools, hospitals, dams, roads, bridges, and above all, evangelizing the people to believe in Jesus Christ.
These missionaries went out on bicycle at the beginning. I am told that they had, I think, was it 2 or 3 cars at the very beginning, and of course the Bishop Henny had a Land Rover. Otherwise, most of them, before they had each a car at the mission stations, they used bicycles. And if you can think that they cycled and opened many missions, Berejena, Dare, on bicycle from Gokomere, you can see the dedication. We have good cars these days. We have Toyotas and all kinds of vehicles, but I'm not sure whether we will cover as much as our fathers have done, fathers in the faith, on bicycle. It's really admirable. It's amazing what they have done, and that they have been prepared to localize themselves and identify themselves with the people. And this spirit, this is why people still emulate missions and emulate us, because we are trying to walk in their footsteps. The missionaries had a permanent impact on this land. And the SMBs, obviously, we are proud of them. In Gweru Diocese and Masvingo Diocese, they really have shown us the way. And I hope that we can try to do at least half the work they did. I'm not sure whether we'll achieve. So they are really dedicated people who loved their people, who mingled with ordinary people, and who used the simple means of a bicycle or even walking. So I'm very grateful to the SMBs.
Well, I mean, of course, one could have done many things better and many things they didn't do which should have done, but still many people vakafatsanaro vakabatsirwa neshokoramari and vakavanausununguku. Of course, it's always up and down, but I mean, I was very much satisfied and very much pleased.
They should carry on with the good work we have started and be confident even in great difficulties.
Lord.